Hello, I'm Max Pleasure. I am a very big Harry Styles fan. If you subscribe to my channel, you already know that. I went to see him at Madison Square Garden for Love on Tour 2021. I look forward to all of his new releases. I can't wait for his movies to come out. I love him. And because I am a fan, I keep up with all the Harry Styles news, what he's up to, what he's doing. So I often see the discourse that Harry inspires. It seems like literally everyone weighs in, and there are a lot of negative reactions. And the negative reactions seem to be coming from all sides. It's not just straight or conservative people who have negative things to say about Harry, it's LGBTQ plus people as well. I have gotten really frustrated over some of the takes that I see. And not just as a Harry Styles fan, but as a queer person. And as a queer person, I feel compelled to call out what looks like fellow queer people letting three very important principles of our community fall by the wayside during these conversations about Harry Styles. And then, as a Harry Styles fan, I feel that it's necessary to call attention to a behavior of Harry's that I have yet to see mentioned in the discourse that I feel must be included moving forward. I will explain. Okay, so there seems to be a general consensus among the queer community that A, you don't have to label your sexuality. Boiling down your sexuality, this huge personal thing, into one word does not feel right to everyone. And honestly, with the increasingly divisive way that some members of our community view these sexual orientations, it makes total sense, to me at least, not to want to get involved with any of that. B, you can't force someone to come out. We know that that's not an option for everyone. You know, there are so many ways in which a person could not be empowered to come out, or they could feel that it isn't safe for them to come out. None of us can deny that. And C, you cannot assume a person's sexuality based on their partner. Like if you see a man and a woman walking down the street holding hands, one or both of them could be bisexual or pansexual. They're not necessarily a straight couple. Making those assumptions, that's like a kind of conditioning of our society and a huge headache for people that identify under the bisexual umbrella. Making assumptions of any kind, honestly, that's something that we need to snap out of. These three principles and things that the LGBTQ plus community seem to generally agree are important to uphold apply to Harry Styles. And so often I see people act like they don't. People say things like, but Harry Styles is a public figure. He should make a statement. He should declare his sexuality. And what are we supposed to think about his sexuality when we only ever see him with women? Harry Styles is a person. Yes, he is a very popular musician. And he is on the cover of magazines and doing interviews, and people hang on his every word. But that doesn't mean that these principles do not apply to him. Harry's status as a popular musician should not exempt him from these principles. And in fact, I would go so far to say that these principles need to especially be applied when having these conversations about Harry Styles because of his status as a public figure. Let's hypothesize for a second. If Harry Styles were to come out as bisexual or pansexual, he would get hit with so much biphobia from millions of people. If you are a bisexual or a pansexual who thinks that you've been hit really hard with biphobia, imagine those comments coming from millions of people from around the world, okay? Or let's say Harry declares his sexuality, decides a label and shares it with the masses, but then later on down the line decide that label actually doesn't work and he wants to change it, which would be well within his right and is a totally real thing that happens. people would accuse him of being a liar or put other horrible, homophobic, mean-spirited things into the universe. I also feel that if Harry were to indicate that he has had relationships with men, so many people would mistake that as him confirming Larry, the theory that he and Lewis were together during their One Direction days, or even are still together. I've seen theories that they're secretly married. I do not personally prescribe to that theory, which is not to say that I think it's impossible for an incredibly popular musician to have a secret long-term same-sex relationship. That's not what I'm saying. I don't see Larry. I just don't. And didn't Harry or Lewis say, like, stop? Like, they directly acknowledged the theories and they were like, stop doing that, you ruined our friendship? That's a pretty direct denial. And in addition to experiencing all the hot takes and resurrecting the theories, there's also the possibility that coming out would negatively impact his career. That can't go unsaid. That is unfortunately, even in 2022, a very real risk that LGBTQ plus artists face. Who knows if that is part of Harry's thinking on this? Who knows if any of the hypotheses that I have put forward are a factor in Harry's decision to not label? We don't know. What we do know, though, is what Harry has told us. He has actually given an explanation for why he does not label his sexuality. And I think it's an explanation that we should take at face value. Harry has said that he wants to live in a world and make a future where labels don't have to be discussed, where labels don't have to exist. Harry explained this in his interview with Better Homes and Gardens. That whole article actually has a lot of his thoughts on sexuality and the way that he presents himself. And you know what? Let's take a moment with that. Harry does not shut down questions or discussions about his sexuality, nor does he deflect in any way. Like when people bring up his love of women's clothing, he doesn't laugh it off or downplay it the way that his flamboyantly dressed rock and roll predecessors might have. Harry has a real appreciation for women's fashion and his desire not to limit himself when it comes to dressing. He's even said something to the effect of what is wearing clothes if not playing dress up? And as a drag king, I approve that message. Harry gives full responses. Let's not confuse Harry's decision to not label his sexuality with hiding. Those are not the same thing. What Harry is doing is simply holding himself to a decision that he made and holding a boundary that he has with the public. If he were trying to hide, I don't think he would be doing any of the things that he is doing. And that actually is a nice little segue to the next part of my rant soapbox moment. Remember the thing that I said that no one's talking about? That actually is in regards to something that Harry is not doing. Okay, I'm gonna try to explain this as clearly as possible. The criticisms that queer people have of Harry seems to turn to this idea that Harry is taking up queer space or a slot of some sort that should have gone to an out queer person. And I have to object to that. Harry is not covering Out magazine or The Advocate. He's not performing at pride festivals and parades. He isn't accepting GLAAD or visibility awards. Harry and his team or his label or whatever are not positioning him as visibility. They don't even really push him as an ally. And that will probably change as we get closer to the release of Harry's upcoming film, My Policeman, and we'll definitely see a shift in these conversations. But in his career so far as a musician, Harry Styles is not taking up queer space. If anything, I would say that he is queering his own spaces. Let me explain using the whole Vogue magazine dress debacle as an example. Harry covered Vogue magazine in December 2020. This was a big deal because Harry was the first man to ever have a solo cover of Vogue. And he wore a dress on the cover. We all remember this. A lot of queer people were peeved about this cover and irritated about the way that people talked about the cover. I think that the general backlash was like, why is Harry Styles being talked about and positioned as if he is the one who is revolutionizing the world with his queer fashions? Billy Porter, an extremely talented performer who is well known for his really flamboyant, extravagant, fabulous looks, was peeved. Peeved is probably to put it really lightly. Billy Porter said, "I created the conversation about non-binary fashion, and yet Vogue still put Harry Styles, a straight white man, in a dress on their cover for the first time. I'm not dragging Harry Styles, but he is the one you're going to try and use to represent this new conversation? He doesn't care. He's just doing it because it's the thing to do." He also said, "This is politics for me. This is my life. I had to fight my entire life to get to the place where I could wear a dress to the Oscars and not be gunned down. All he has to do is be white and straight." Billy Porter is an out queer Black performer. I can see where he's coming from with this. If I were in his shoes, I would probably feel pretty much the same exact way. I cannot be angry with him, and I believe Billy Porter has since apologized. Like, this is all water under the bridge. I don't mean to like resurrect this drama. I'm only sharing this whole story to explain, what I'm trying to say. But it's not like the Vogue people, Anna Wintour or whoever. We're sitting there like, we want to put our first man on the cover, and we want it to be someone queer and flamboyant and a face of non-binary fashion. Who should we pick? Let's pick Harry Styles. I severely doubt that that's the way that this ended up happening. If I had to guess, I would guess that it happened the opposite way. It probably went more like, Harry Styles just released a new album and he's up for a Grammy, so he's doing some promotional stuff. Why don't we put him on the cover? And actually, it would make a really big splash because he would be our first solo man cover. And they may have even thought like, ooh, this is actually a really good idea because we are a women's fashion magazine and Harry could wear women's fashions on the cover. Do you see what I'm saying? Harry was given this slot, this space, the magazine cover, and he chose to wear a dress on it, therefore queering that space, that slot that was given to him. Does that make sense? Basically what I'm trying to say is, I don't feel that Harry Styles is robbing the queer community of anything. We want the same things. We are playing for the same team, if you get what I mean. At the end of the day, I do not believe that Harry Styles is a straight man who is like trying to pull a fast one on us and take advantage and capitalize off of the queer community. I do not believe that. I don't think that we should trash any of the queer things that Harry Styles does just because those things aren't accompanied by a label. And I would encourage everyone to follow my lead on that. Thank you very much for watching this video and for listening to my thoughts on this. I have a lot of feelings on this topic, and I hope that they came across in a clear and eloquent way. If you have any thoughts about this, or if anything that I said really resonated with you, please let me know in the comments. Let's continue the conversation. And if you liked this video, please give me a like. And if you're not sick of hearing me talk yet, subscribe to my channel. Okay, that's it. Thank you.